So I gave the purpose for the study, one, and number two is the context why this study has been taken up. The reason being the Press Freedom Index, where India's ranking from year to year is actually increasing, saying that it is not anymore safe to for journalists to be working in this country. However, this is highly contentious because people are also questioning the rationale and the parameters in which these kind of rankings and ratings are being discussed in India. Moving on, I'll be showing two many cases, but two very prominent amongst are Mohammad Zubair, who runs Alt News, and number two, Gauri Lankesh. She was the former editor of Gauri Lankesh, a newspaper down from South India, Karnataka. Alt News debunks disinformation and misinformation campaign, typically that about the government and more so to do with the right wing affiliations. And Gauri Lankesh, and this person was behind bars for a earlier post which he has done in the year 2018. So they could not question his way of fact checking, but they went back in time, and one of the person has said that it is actually intimidating some kind of sentiments towards the religion, and he was booked and he was put in jail. Now he is also released. Gauri Lankesh, the other hand, was shot dead in her house. She was a very sharp critic of the right wing, and in her writings and in her speeches, has questioned the rise of right wing in India and what kind of an impact it may likely have on the country. So her case is also underway. It's been since 4 years, but none of the judgments has been given against that incident. Another, Siddiqui Kappan, he is a journalist again from Kerala. He has traveled all the way to Hathras in order to cover one of the heinous crimes committed by four people against a Dalit woman. Even before he tries to enter the city, he was caught and he was reprimanded, and the police put him in custody, and he spent 2 years in jail on sedition charges. And another familiar face, Sana Irshad. She is a Pulitzer Prize winner for the feature photography for 2020-22. And after she got the invitation to receive the Pulitzer Prize, she was not allowed to travel out of the country, despite having the valid visas and passport. The list will go on. We have Debmalya Bachi. He's languishing behind bars. He was instrumental in covering the Hooch tragedy in the eastern side of the country in Bengal. And threats of rape and death are being received by women journalists, typically misogynist approach towards women. And Sandeep Sharma, a TV reporter, was crushed to death in 2018 by a lorry, a container, when he was talking about the sand mafia that was happening in Madhya Pradesh. A working journalist, Jagender Singh, was beaten and set on fire. Later, his son has accepted that it was self-immolation. But however, people who were there assume that uh, uh, a mafia which was around the stories which he unveiled, they actually killed him. And one from Andhra Pradesh, Shankar, was beaten by rods because he has, there's something called a public distribution system in India where you require a ration card. And he was talking about how these ration cards are being illicitly distributed for non people who do not fall into the line where they receive the ration cards. This happened in 2014. We always see an association between democracy and journalism, saying that for a healthy democracy, there should be an active and a positive outlook of journalists and the way they report and hold truth to power. Moving on, I would like to again talk about some things that happen online as well, because journalism, because of the internet penetration in the country and the ever-going infrastructural changes, internet is very prevalent. We will look at a few of the cases here where one of the journalists who was a TV anchor from the northeast, he was charged under the National Security Act by in Manipur for having a comment on social media on cow dung and cow urine don't cure COVID. So he actually aided. This was said in the social media post, and the state government has booked him under the National Security Act. Later, he was released. So these are intimidations, and we have Dhaval Patel, who is from Gujarat. He was slapped with sedition for speculating a story that there may be a change in the state government and the CM may be changed. For that, they have booked him under the Sedition Act. Rigzin, he's from Ladakh, he was arrested for another man's comment on the Facebook which he runs. So it's not directly he is involved, but he runs a Facebook group on which one of the person has commented, which goes against the ruling party. So he was also booked. So when we look at now some of the cases that we see here, either most of the cases which need to be uh, uh, slapped for anti-national and terrorist activities, there are being journalists are also booked under these acts. It is called the UAPA Act, where it's more like a terrorist and anti-national act, and something called National Security Act, where the security is breached, and if not, they do not heed to these, and there are enforcement directorate which keeps a track of the finances of any company. So if you look at the BBC documentary Aid in this country, and immediately it was taken off air and was not allowed to play, there was enforcement directorate that rounded up BBC office in Delhi. Initially, they had done an income tax raid. So these are all intimidations which the journalists pose. So I will also talk about some secondary data. This is done by Swati, one of the journalists. Here we can look close to 21 deaths have happened, and this lady has clearly categorized how this happens. Either police and politicians, right-wing Hindutva, the village officials, sand mining, stone crushing, kerosene trade, how these deaths and who were responsible. She well documented research this journalist has done. So this is from the secondary sources. The implications of these threats are happening in many fold. One is how do we do investigative stories? One, for the existing journalists who are doing any kind of a stories, either they are being rounded off by police or not being given permission, or number two, the organizations which they represent, they are facing some kind of a financial hardship in terms of advertisements not being given to them, or even some kind of a income tax raids on them. One is they're looking at what's happening is, first they feel angry about what's happening in this country regarding the threats and intimidation, and they're also resentful at the same time. What is that is happening, and why is that we have picked up a profession called journalism? And some people are even getting scared in pursuing investigative stories, and after going big names in terms of corporates and as well local to national politicians. The second implication is the students who are pursuing journalism courses. Typically, when we are teaching the students and we talk about what's happening in this country regarding the journalists and freedom, we also speak about not only the freedom but also the kind of threats and intimidation. So they are pondering whether the profession that they are entering, whether they have made a right choice of becoming a though they are yet to enter, but is it the right choice that they have made? And number two, I think if some of the members are as well part of it. I did see Arul Selvan, sir, who was with Pondicherry University. You see the number of applications received for journalism as a course are drastically falling in this country. So, what is this trend talking about? Is like, well, you keep hearing about the threats and deaths of journalists. Maybe the parents do not want their children to pick up this profession, and the number of applications, though the courses are running in full strength, but the number of applications that as an academician I've been seeing are drastically falling. Even if they take up journalism, they do not want to get into the hard news of it, but they would like to get into sports, or the soft side of it, maybe business, or else fashion, lifestyle journalism, travel journalism. So This is the present trend. But however, if we need to go back in time, one of the hello, yeah, if we go back in time, we can see that all the restrictions India has inherited is from the British rule in India. British in India were little regressive and very oppressive in terms of crubbing the press in the country. So when they have left the nation, the then governments have actually used the same laws for the existing citizens. And even the sedition law, which is close to 150 years old, that was formulated by the British. India follows that law that anything that is against the national interest and against the security of the country should be dealt with. Um, uh, the well, there has been surveillance on journalists since ages. There's nothing wrong. People would like to keep an eye on what people are going to write and what kind of stories that they are doing. But silencing the journalists cannot be accepted as a profession, because they are there out to seek out the truth and also tell the people about the day-to-day happenings and the events in the country, and make the citizens little more active in terms of democratic participation. But of late, there was a big event that happened, Pegasus, where the spyware and the malware that entered the Indian politicians, businessmen, and to say that 40 journalists in this country, where the Pegasus spyware has infiltrated into them. Uh, well, um, uh, this is what and in terms of online, there's lots of trolling that happens if anyone is not happy with the kind of stories that are being portrayed against their loved leaders or against the prescribed religions that they owe diligence to. So people are really thinking, and even the organizations are distancing themselves away from the journalists, rather than the organization saying that I do hold the same, I do accept what has been said is in the personal view. But however, what we can see is the media organizations are letting go the journalists, saying that now you need to fix the problem for yourself. But I still remember the earlier editors used to say that if you have written and you have the proof for it, we will stand for it. Now they are left, the, I mean to say, the foot soldiers. Nothing is happening to the owners, the editors, or people at the higher pedestal of the hierarchy of the media. But the real threat and intimidation is happening to people who are the foot soldiers, who are news gatherers. And I think P. Sainath, the Magsaysay Award winner, has done a wonderful study on journalists, and he figured out that the biggest ailment of journalists is stomach ulcers. That means they don't eat in time, they consume whatever is available, and there are no proper unique routines for them. You see, because journalism is a passion, but typically it started as a mission, later it became a passion. Now it is more like a profession or a business that is only looking at the bottom line. But people who want to join journalism, and the kind of discourses that a journalism school has, is like we try to pump up saying that, look, this is what a journalist is and this is what he needs to do. But the reality is totally different, and these questions keep coming back to us, whether and even some of the parents also talk about how safe it is to be a journalist when they read up on such incidents. Since we are talking about the media houses, typically cross media ownership is rampant in this country, India, where either it is owned by political affiliates or big newsmen. They are cannibalizing small media and creating a kind of an echo chamber around some popular views rather than critical views. Okay, I can stop here maybe. Sorry, I was just in a flow. Yeah, this is my submission, but these are purely based on secondary data. But through the discussions with the students, we are also trying to get the feel